SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
Want to cut your heating costs this season? With a highly efficient York heating and air conditioning system, you can save up to 50% in energy costs while enjoying tax credits and TVA energy rebates as much as $3,000. Your local York dealer. Visit harbonair.com to schedule a free evaluation of your system.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Everyone, and welcome to MidDays SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Will East, in for the vacationing rhino in the Element Wealth studio, where we'll be guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music. Morning there, Will.
Oh, what a way to start the day. A little breaking news. I don't know if you saw this.
What's up?
So, in Iran, as you know, the Ayatollah has been taken out.
Yep.
Well, there's a council. It's called the Council of Experts, I believe, or the Assembly of Experts, which I'd like to be an Assembly of Experts member.
Assembly of Experts, according to whom, right?
Yes. Well, they got together to meet about who's going to be the next leader.
Okay.
Israel bombed that meeting.
I just saw that. That is actually being displayed as the headline on all the news services right now, and it's really unusual when you see the Wall Street Journal. I'm gonna flip the screen around. Really unusual when you see it publish a headline with a photo and take that much space, on the splash page. That means, as you're indicating, it's a big dang deal. So,
wow,
Israel. What do you say? Well, they're pretty sharp when it comes to this war stuff, and they've had to be because everybody around there wants to blow them off the map. They're pretty dang good, and bravo to them. You're right. So the headline in the Wall Street Journal, Israel strikes Tehran, Beirut, in widening conflict with Iran, and then it just has rotating still photos. It's incredible, the devastation, if you're taking a look at that. So, no doubt, the war right now is widening. Now, the bad news is the markets don't like this, and they are selling off, though the Dow is off of its lows of the session, presently down 965 points. It's been down over 1,100 points today. The VIX out of sight, that's the volatility index, just a measure of volatility. Man, if there's one thing for sure between the last 24 hours, over the last 24 hours, we have witnessed volatility. We opened up yesterday, down sharply, and closed up. Yeah. And now, of course, down again more than 2%. All the indexes down significantly. But something else that, of course, is important to not only Mississippians, but everybody else in the country and in the world is the price of oil. As expected, is rising sharply. Crude oil up now about $5, both domestic crude oil, West Texas Intermediate as it is called, and the Brent Sea crude. Now the Brent Sea crude over $85. That's the highest since mid-24. So no doubt you're going to see gas prices rising as that oil makes its way through the distribution system, refining system, and then sent on its way out to retail fuel stations. So is this temporary or is this something that's going to lag? I don't know. I'm optimistic. I believe this is temporary. I believe we're going to get through this. Yeah, crude oil now $77 a barrel, up $6. So just last week on the show, I typically do share where oil is during the show. $65, right? And not too long ago, it was $55. Of course, folks paying close attention to the price of gas under this president versus the prior president. But it's volatile. Now, back to kind of my thoughts on where we're headed. I think that we're going to get through this. I'm praying. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. I'm not going to be pessimistic about this. A lot of people are. I think this is some short-term pain for long-term gain, as the saying goes. Now, I will say this. The Democrats, they're unhappy no matter what because it's Trump. Anything Trump does, they don't like. Period. It's him they don't like. And the reason they don't like him is because he makes them look silly often. He causes political pain for them. Thus, they oppose anything and everything he does. That's like ingrained in their ideology, so to speak. You got to hate it because it's Trump, right? Well, I started thinking about this, Will. You know, this president is friendly to fossil fuels. The prior administration was not, though the production of oil in this country and gas did actually rise under Biden. But what happened was, given the rise in the trend, if you think about that, we were at before Biden was elected, had that trend under President Trump as the 45th president in his first term, had they just left all that alone and that continued, rather than producing now about 13.8 million barrels a day, we'd be at 15. Yeah. That trend would have continued. We'd be at 15. And the other, of course, is we have learned that we are absolutely flush with natural gas. The problem is the blue states won't let us get it out of the ground. Pennsylvania, New York. New York is absolutely perfectly poised for fracking to extract liquid natural gas, but they won't do it because they're left-wing climate nuts. Yeah. But here's what I was thinking, Will. What if Kamala Harris had been elected? What if she had been elected? I'll tell you what would have happened. She would have continued, probably even enhanced Joe Biden's policies that were anti-fossil fuels. You know what would be happening? The people in those states that won't allow fracking would be freezing their butts off right now. You're seeing it. It's a brutal cold winter in that part of the country. It's remember talking to the National Weather Service, we're in what's called a La Nina year, which means the jet stream tends to stay north of us. Problem is, everything north of that is cold as hell right now. And if we would have been under the Biden-Kamala Harris anti-Green New Deal crap fossil fuels policies, they'd be freezing. And what little heating oil they could get, which is what they use in that part of the country to heat their homes, would be so dang expensive they couldn't use it. Isn't it interesting how their policies always hurt the very people they claim to be the champions for? It hurts them the most. We're just fortunate, big time, given this situation. Now, on the other hand, you know they would never have attacked Iran. They certainly wouldn't have conducted a mission such as the president did last year, Operation Midnight Hammer, which did obliterate Iran's nuclear aspirational efforts. But maybe we wouldn't have this situation we do right now with the constraint of oil, but where we would be is closer to Iran having a nuclear weapon. Yeah. Because they wouldn't act. So I think we're going to get through this. And on the other side of this, I think we're going to see oil, gas begin to flow again, normalize. Prices are going to settle in again to where they should be without all this geopolitical strife. And even though Iran at least attempted to totally shut down the Strait of Hormuz, through which about 20% of the world's oil and gas flow. They tried to. This country has sunk, 9, 10 of their naval vessels, which means that it's a little harder for them to blockade the strait when they don't have any naval assets to do so.
Who's the leadership?
Yeah, there's a vacuum there.
Okay, so the Israel and the U.S. decapitated the leadership.
Yeah.
Now they've essentially gone after the torso, if you will. I mean, to think about it like that.
That's a good point. They're going down the body, the head of the monster down, right?
I mean, we're going to be at toes before you know it.
Oh, my gosh. We got to point out before we go to break here, man, our condolences, our prayers, and our gratitude. Now, six service members, have been killed in action. And this is unbelievable, sad. Operation Epic Fury, the number has climbed from 4 to 6. Secretary of State Marco Rubio vows, quote, the hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military. CENTCOM announced these 2 additional service members had been killed in action late yesterday, from a facility that was struck during Iran's initial attacks. We're taking a break right now. Coming right back with more. Today it's Michael Watson, the Secretary of State, at 10:35. Joel and Natasha at 11:05. Please stay with us. We're in the Element Wealth studio. This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
We're rolling. Middays with Gerard Gibert. What? This is so awesome. On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. So, once again, the U.S. death toll from Iran, Operation Epic Fury, now up to 6 troops. The Pentagon's really not releasing a whole lot of details on that, Will, and that's understandable. U.S. forces, this is the official statement from U.S. Central Command, also known as CENTCOM. U.S. forces recently recovered the remains of 2 previously unaccounted-for service members from a facility that was struck during Iran's initial attacks in the region. That's pretty much it. On the C Spire text line, by the way, that's 601-879-4395. Charles in Matheson says, is there any comparison Biden-Trump versus Chamberlain-Churchill right before World War II? I have seen some opinion writers make some comparisons. I've also seen a little bit more comparison of the FDR to Donald Trump in this respect, just with their overall disdain for war, but feeling this operation, this action is necessary. I will say this, the Democrats, as I was saying in the last segment, of course, they're highly critical of the president in this action. But I got to tell you, well, I'm not so sure that I like the idea of Republicans coming forth and pointing out what prior Democrat presidents did with respect to these actions. I don't think either justify the other. And while I get it, I'm just not so sure that playing the whataboutism game makes a lot of sense. To me, each of those actions ought to stand on their own with respect to their legality, their need, their justification, their rationale, and, of course, they should be transparent and clear with the American people as to what those objectives are. So I don't think the president's actions here should be justified on the basis of, well, what did Joe Biden do, and what did Barack Obama do, and all that sort of stuff. Those are just separate matters, in my view. That's just my opinion. You may have a different one, but if we start playing that game, where does it ever end?
Yeah.
So in this case, the president saw fit to take this action. He has enunciated the reasons for those to the American people. He's been totally open and transparent about it. He followed all the proper protocols, and, of course, within his inner circle, they have cited all the laws that confer such power to him. Sure, we could get in a court and get a bunch of smart lawyers around and argue that till the cows come home, as the saying goes. I don't know who's going to win on that. It's so much of it's so subjective and not objective. But the State Department has issued, and the Department of War, both have issued some statements, some information about the objectives. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, concerning the operation yesterday, made it very clear this is not nation building. This is not Iraq, referring to what many Americans believe was a fairly brutal mistake made, right, with respect to operations in Iraq. And we lost lots of folks. I think most people listening could probably reference someone they know that served in combat. I certainly do. I know someone that's came home without a leg that lives in my county. So certainly we could debate that all day long, but the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, said, quote, "This is not Iraq. This is not endless." He said, "This is not a fundamental nation-building exercise that we saw in the past 2 decades. This is the opposite." He said the operation is focused on dismantling Iran's offensive military capabilities, and that the goals of the operation include destroying their missile launch systems and production facilities, degrading their naval forces, and eliminating their remaining nuclear-related infrastructure. So I like the specificity of that. And I'll only say that I think Americans expect that, hey, once those objectives are achieved, we get out, right? We stop it and we pull back. I think I can speak honestly of what I believe is widespread sentiment among the American people. Nobody wants prolonged war, that's for sure. And once our objectives are achieved, let's back off and hope that the world is a better place. That's the goal upon achieving these objectives. The president, however, President Trump, he signaled that this country is prepared for long war against Iran. Now, long is relative, right? I don't know exactly how long. He did say it could be weeks. He said, or more. That's all he said. So take it for what it's worth, weeks or more. He did, however, say that we're ahead of schedule. He said that. One of his favorite qualifiers to such statements is by a lot. He said that again yesterday. We're actually ahead of schedule by a lot. I don't know what that means. Again, that's pretty subjective. He has offered some conflicting rationales and expectations, but I really feel like that his cabinet staff in Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio have been very specific and explicit with their remarks, as they should be, serving in those roles. And I don't think they're saying anything the president hasn't authorized them to say. So I'm pleased that we are proceeding in a transparent fashion. But there's certainly some economic pain, and then you can't help but think, well, what does this mean to the midterms? If this thing's over and done, oil stabilizes back to where it was before this started, and because the price of oil rising, as you know, affects the price of everything, and that could trigger inflation. But if we get that under control and the price at the pump begins to cool and return to where it was, and the markets go back to where they were, I think people are good to go.
You're right. The price of oil impacts everything, not just the gas in your car or the oil in your car, but if you're drinking out of a plastic water bottle, guess what? There's oil resins in it. The glue in your shoes. Oil is in every single thing that we touch every day almost. So a price fluctuation is going to definitely impact that. But two, I think with Iran, what's the next step as far as their leadership? I mean,
I don't know.
Either two things are going to happen. Somebody's going to rise up, one of these dissidents that has been speaking out against the regime that was there, or the radicals.
Yeah.
Because that's what's happened in every other Middle Eastern country where you've decapitated the leadership.
And you just have this vacuum, and you don't know what happens after that. And so I guess we can say about this country's actions on that front is that the president has said to the people, go take over your country, right? We've set the table for you here.
And by doing what Israel did today, bombing the meeting where they were meeting about choosing the next leader, and Israel bombed, according to reports, bombed that meeting. It looks like I go back to the head, now the torso. Maybe someone will arise and stabilize the country.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Hope so. I just don't know who it is. I really don't.
Nobody. I don't think anybody does.
Yeah.
I mean, President Trump said himself. He says, this is before today's events. He said, not only did we get rid of the leader, we got rid of the person on the bench and the person on the third stringer. What do you do after that?
Don't know. Hard to tell at this point. Meanwhile, from a political perspective, we in the state of Mississippi go to the polls next Tuesday, a week from today. Early voting is available, including on Saturday at your local circuit clerk for half a day, I believe. We got Secretary of State Michael Watson coming on the program next to talk about absentee voting and the election next week. We'll get to this later on the program, but all eyes today, at least, are focused on the Lone Star State of Texas. Unbelievable Senate race going on there. Hotly contested in both primary parties on the Republican side and the Democrat side, with a whopping amount of money, we'll tell you about that later, being invested in those races. And, of course, it's primary for all their, I think, 38 House seats as well. We're stepping aside for a break from the Element Well studio. On the other side, it's Secretary of State Michael Watson.
Attention, adoring fans!
It's time for Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. We thank you so much for joining us today. In 1 week, we'll be conducting primary elections here in the great state of Mississippi. That's why we're bringing in the Secretary of State of the Magnolia State, Secretary Michael Watson. Mr. Secretary, thanks for joining us today.
You're very welcome. Good to see you again. 2 days in a row.
Exactly. Enjoyed that discussion yesterday. Appreciate you coming by to see us. So, absentee voting, it's in full swing. Tell us what we need to know.
It is. And as a matter of fact, in-person absentee voting will end this Saturday. So folks that are making their plans, make sure you go see your clerk. Clearly, you can go today, any day during the week. But the deadline there for the absentee in-person is on Saturday. Absentee in mail, again, you have to have your ballot postmarked by Election Day and received within 5 business days therein. So those are the big things you need to know. And again, I hope folks are making plans now. We've got a really low turnout so far. I think we've only sent roughly about 9,000 ballots at this point, and that's a very low number. As many folks probably tracked last time, we had less than 11% turnout in total. So for the last congressional elections. Wow. Terrible for Mississippi. We got to do
better. So let's review for the folks, Mr. Secretary, what's on the ballot. We've got, of course, 4 U.S. House districts in the state of Mississippi, all 4 of those are contested, as is the case, every 2 years. And then we have one U.S. Senate seat, one of our two, that seat currently held by Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. What else is on the ballot, Mr. Secretary?
Yeah, so as far as primaries are concerned, that's what you're going to see on your ballot. We'll have more races in the fall. Some judicial races will be on there. And obviously, sometimes we have special elections that are placed on the ballot as well. But those are the ones you really need to pay attention to right now. Again, doing your homework, making sure you've understood, hey, what do these folks, what do they stand for? What have they been doing while they're in office? What are their plans moving the state forward? And then get out there and cast an educated vote. That's most important here in Mississippi.
Okay. Yeah, so with respect to absentee ballots, help us out just to understand, again, a review of the process, Mr. Secretary, in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, so I'll tell you really quickly, there are two things you should think about. My Election Day is a new tool. It's on our website. Very important there. You get all the information you need, but also y'allvote.ms. So when it comes to absentee voting, et cetera, all of that is spelled out on our website. So those are the two ones we like to point people to. Also, really important, those relationships at the local level, making sure you can call your clerks or your elections commissioners. They have all the answers as well. But it's a real quick and skinny outline there of what you need to know on our website. So it's really much more easy for you to go look at that and take a read, or call us. You can call your circuit clerk's offices. That's what I would encourage folks to do.
Okay. So in completing my ballot on an absentee basis, what do I got to do there that's special?
Yeah, so again, depending on if you're in person or by mail, a couple of different things that you would need to know. Mail, clearly, you need a notary with some small exceptions there. In person, your clerks will walk you through that process, including signing across the flap on the envelope, making sure you got your signature, properly dating, and properly casting your ballot. That's a process that they'll walk you through. Our clerks are fantastic when you go into their offices to kind of explain the process from A to Z, to be patient with you, but also, again, explain if you've got questions. And please, I think that's a key point here. If you have questions, don't just assume, that you may know the answer. Ask the question. Make sure that the clerks are giving you the information that you need, and or voting by mail or any other issue that you have with elections. Always feel free to call our office. One of the things that we've tried to do with our Elections 101 campaign is really explain the process from A to Z, from the time that I registered to vote to the time that I cast a ballot to the time it's counted. Who's in charge of what, and what are the things that I need to know along that process? So I think that's a thing for Mississippians to understand. How do I hold my elected officials accountable? Well, it's a good thing to know what their jobs are. So in elections, we've tried to outline that so people can understand. Something happens at this point, it's either the Secretary of State's office or your clerk. Something happens here, it's your elections commissioner. So I think that's another important piece for folks just to educate themselves on the process as well.
Okay. And let's also just remind the folks, you said something about maybe some judicial seats on the ballot in November in the general election that we don't have primaries for judges. They're not party affiliated, right?
That's correct. So you'll see those coming on. More information coming out about that after the primaries and as they get into the campaign season. I know there are several that are out there, and they'll be asking for your votes. And again, although they are nonpartisan, I think that's a really important thing for Mississippians to understand. You still need to see, hey, what kind of decisions have they made? If they have a track record as being a judge, if they haven't been a judge before, what kind of law practice is it something that would lend itself to a great judge on the bench? Again, I think it's important that folks do their research, not just for candidates who are partisan or for local or statewide election, but these judicial races. It's really important when you think about the three branches of government and the interpretation that they provide for our laws. So, again, I can't stress it enough, making sure that folks take the time to do the homework on all of their candidates, including these nonpartisan judicial races. Yeah,
that's a great point. As we've seen a trend in this country over the last several years where judges become lawmakers in robes, as the saying goes. So you want to make sure that whomever you vote for there aligns with your values, and I would suggest in particular sticks to the law and not their personal ideology. That's really what we want judges to be, is impartial in that respect. So the legislative session underway right now, as you know. Any particular bills from your office's perspective that you're taking a look at, that you're following, that you'd like to see happen or not happen?
Yeah, we've got a few things. Unfortunately, we had a big package dealing with campaign finance reform, and it died prior to this deadline. Today, it died, I think, in the Senate on the Senate calendar. Had some concerns, and then I know there were some concerns across the hall with the House. But what the Senate did pass out, and we're really proud of and excited about, was the online filing portion of campaign finance reports, which would apply to everybody from dog catcher on up to governor. That is in the Senate, our House Elections Committee, subject to today's deadline, so we're hoping that comes out. A few other pieces that we're dealing with, we've got some securities things over there and a couple other pieces that are smaller. The SHIELD Act is another important one for us. We've talked about this a lot with our voter roll maintenance. And this would allow us, again, to interact with the SAVE database, which is very important to make sure that we got only United States citizens voting in our elections. Yeah,
and in fact, if the SAVE Act, not to be confused with the SAVE database, boy, would they made that so confusing.
That's right.
But
they did.
Should that become law, then it would be a requirement, a mandate, right, placed on our registrars, those who maintain those voter rolls, would have to bump those names on their rolls against that database to determine and ensure that they are actually American citizens. I think,
if I remember correctly,
I don't think, Mr. Secretary. Okay, and that's what I was about to ask you if they've talked about how often that would be required. Yeah, annual basis.
And to your point, I think it's important for our listeners to understand we're not allowed to do that. And
right.
We're having to ask the legislature to give us
crazy.
The authority. They gave us one. It is.
It's crazy.
They gave us the ability to do it once, and we did, and we got some hits there. So I think it's important that we continue to do that, and that's one of the pieces of our legislation we passed a few years ago. Again, making sure that only United States citizens can vote in our elections. I talked about that on the campaign trail. We were able to get it done. And now this is just the next step to be able to bounce it off every year as opposed to just the initial time when they come to register to vote. Yeah,
and so another purpose of that, of course, would be for all these legacy names that are on the voter rolls across the country, not just in Mississippi, that may never have authenticated as citizens, that this would be a way for them, a process for them to ensure that they are. And if they're not, they should be removed from the rolls. It's pretty straightforward. Got to talk politics with you a little bit. It's being reported that you have announced at least that you're going to be on the ballot in 27, but not as the Secretary of State. What do you want to tell us about that?
Gerard, we've thought a lot about that, and I think the key thing that it should be the marker for all elected officials is when you get to the point where you feel like you've done a lot of great work and you can leave behind an office knowing that you left it better than you found it. And then again, when you pray about things that, hey, where's an opportunity where I can do more good? And does that exist? And if it does exist, then let's take a look at it. If we get a piece about it, then that's what we're going to do. So we'll be coming out with an announcement here pretty soon. Really excited about some plans that we've put together. You'll be one of the first to know. So excited to talk about that when it's time. But again, really proud of our team here at the Secretary of State's office. Just the work that we've put in. It speaks for itself. When national leaders are starting to look at what Mississippi's doing at the Secretary of State's office, when I'm traveling to different states explaining to them how we were able to get it done in Mississippi, how they can mirror us, that says we've done a job that folks want to mimic and want to be just like us in some of the things that we're doing. So really proud of that, kind of giving this office a jolt and working through with the Trump administration. We're leading the efforts there on election integrity across the country, how states can the White House and then implement these good policies that we've done here in Mississippi. Really proud of the work we've done, and I'm happy to stand on that, and it's a great record to run from. So we'll be talking about that more pretty soon.
Okay. Well, that sounds good, and no doubt, I believe your office has been a model for Secretary of State operations across the country. Mississippi, the last couple of years, has enjoyed the national spotlight for so many accomplishments, this being one of them. I think our best days are ahead here in the Magnolia State. Appreciate it, Secretary of State Michael Watson.
Thanks, sir, and I certainly agree. Good days ahead.
You bet. We're coming right back, folks, in the Element Wealth Studio.
Come on. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
It's not. Oh, let me see. All right, we're back in the Element Well studio. Got a little technical problem going on right now. Will, you working on that? So, all right, we're here though. Louis from the 662. Apologize for that little delay. Louis from the 662. Where do we stand in relation to the Keystone Pipeline? Yeah, really nothing going on that, Louis. There's concerns that the builders of that have, or those who would utilize the Keystone Pipeline have with respect to just flooding too much oil. So just keep that in mind, that oil and gas companies, they're not really too keen on increasing supply. That may make us happy because it would drive the price down, but if it drives the price down to a point where it really significantly cuts into their profit, it's not something they're interested in. So that is sour type oil, what's also known as dirty type oil, that would be transported from Canada down to the refinery central area of the Houston, Texas for further processing. But there have been a significant number of permits that have been issued for drilling on public lands since the president has been in office. But to be quite perfectly honest and frank and truthful here, the same was true under Biden, certainly in his last couple of years. In the output of oil increased by a great amount to about 400,000 barrels a day or so. And it is also increased 500,000 to 600,000 barrels a day under this president. The main point is that when Joe Biden was elected, he did issue a series of executive orders, once again, pandering to the left wing of his base and leaning heavily into the Green New Deal type policies, just making it extremely difficult to obtain a permit, and just all sorts of other regulations issued, which were, by the way, followed suit by the states that oppose the exploitation of America's abundant natural gas and crude oil resources. Though the actual output did still, in spite of all that, increase because the big oil and gas companies needed to do so to really just operate their businesses. So we are producing more oil than we ever have on a daily basis in this country. We are number one in the world, by the way, in that regard. Believe it or not, that hasn't always been the case, even during the president's first administration. It sits at about 13.6, 13.7 million barrels per day. We consume about 19 million. So anytime you hear folks talking about energy independence, there are multiple definitions of that. There's no consensus of what exactly that means. I think the average person, I would say, Will, on the street thinks it means, well, we produce enough oil in this country, oil specifically, exclusively, oil to satisfy our demand. That's not true. We don't produce enough oil. We produce enough energy. But energy is comprised of multiple sources besides just oil. Mm-hmm. So we have oil, we have gas, we have renewable energy, which now accounts for about 20% of total. We have coal. So you have to put all of those into the mix to calculate total energy independence, if that's your definition of it. And all that really means is, in accordance with most industry standards and energy industry analysts, is if we produce total energy produced is more than total energy consumed of all forms, oil, gas, renewables, coal, etc., then you're independent. That's the way they define it. But if you look just strictly at crude oil, we're actually not. One of the problems is we don't have enough refining capacity in this country.
And as we had a gas guy in here a few years ago who told us flat out, he says all the easy oil has already been taken out.
It's already been gone. That's precisely right. But technology is enabling us to get to the harder to process, to harvest oil. And that's where we're hurting in the blue states, who won't let us use that technology to get to that oil It would be so much better if they would. Fox News, Super Talk News up next. Coming right back with Joel and Natasha from America's Roundtable Radio program.
Of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is hour 2 of Middays. We're coming at you live from the Element Wealth studio. Thanks so much for joining us. It's our pleasure to welcome now Joel and Natasha, host and co-host of America's Roundtable Radio program and co-founder International Leaders Summit. All right, Joel, Natasha, good to see you guys. How's everything going?
A very good morning to you, Gerard. It's great to join you on Super Talk Mississippi today.
Good to see you, Gerard. Thank you for hosting us.
Absolutely. You guys, too. So, well, a lot has happened in the Middle East since the last time we talked. You guys tracked this region quite diligently, know an awful lot about it. Your thoughts to this point? Was this the right move by the president?
Certainly, as we look at what has transpired over the past decade, since 1979, when the Islamic government came into power in Tehran, it has caused havoc around the world. It's been disrupting economies in Europe, the United States, as a major supplier of oil as well. What President Donald Trump has done is what no other president has done before, and that is to hold to account Iran, a state sponsor of terrorism. And they have wreaked havoc around the world and have funded proxies, including the Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, which have disrupted the trade through the Red Sea, and also funding Hezbollah, which is based at this very moment in Venezuela, closer to the strategic region bordering Colombia and other places as well. So it is a threat. Iran is a threat to America, to American troops in the region, to U.S. troops in Europe. And what President Trump has done is truly a just intervention.
So where do we go from here? As you guys are well aware, both America and Israel have been attacking other sites within Iran and seem to have eliminated most of the regime and the inner circle of the Ayatollah, besides the Ayatollah himself no longer being topside. So who's kind of in line to take over, and how do the people, how do they proceed forward to install a democratic form of government?
Yes, Gerard, the first day, actually, the militaries, U.S. and Israel, killed Ayatollah, but also 48 other leaders. So basically, the heads of intelligence, the heads of security, the chief of staff, the military generals. So basically, the top echelon of Tehran's regime. And just today, we heard the news, just maybe an hour ago, that a new strike destroyed the council. So basically, there's a council of experts that was right on the verge of electing a new leader for Iran, for Iran's regime. We have to make a distinction. So Iran's regime is debilitated, and the succession is now a question. That's the biggest question: who is going to take over the government in Iran? And also, one of the latest news is that President Trump offered to support against military regime, basically, which also he allegedly or reportedly reached out to Kurds, which were our allies in the previous wars against ISIS. So they are obviously approaching Kurds as potential military against the regime, to have those, boots on the ground. And so not to have U.S. forces on the ground, but to have local military equipped individuals, forces that are capable of fighting, that have already shown a track record of being American allies, to go against any new potential leader that may emerge as a pro-Iran regime is trying to get replacement done.
So the president, we're just seeing the report come across the wire right now, is that another hit today on new leadership, and also talking about a joint attack by this country and Israel on many of their military assets. So just decimating, as you said a minute ago, Natasha, debilitating their ability to defend themselves and to really respond to our military attacks on them, as well as Israel, of course, being involved in that. And the president, with respect to succession, to my knowledge, he hasn't really suggested or endorsed any particular individual to take over. He's just encouraged the people of Iran to take back their government and their country.
Right, yes. He's encouraging people to take back the government. As he said previously, help is on the way after some 30,000 protesters were killed just protesting against Iran's regime. So he is not endorsing anyone. There is a Raza Pahlavi who is trying to say, I can be that next person to lead the transition of Iran from a regime that is debilitated to a new democratic state with institution and constitution that would be basically new for Iran. But it doesn't seem that there is overall acceptance. We are not sure how far is, how serious is Reza Pahlavi taken by the leaders of the West. So basically, we are not sure who will replace the regime. But this is an encouraging, I would say, encouraging message by President Trump, trying to find those forces on the ground, the military forces that are against regime and that have a track record of being American allies in the past.
In fact, Joel, the president just stated about 15 minutes ago, he said the U.S. has knocked out, his words, Iran's Navy, Air Force, and radar defenses today. And he made these comments from the White House. As you know, he's about to meet with the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz. So he's painting the picture that America and Israel are really putting it to Iran and prevailing in this conflict and really decapitating their ability to wage any degree of war. And let's hope they don't have the ability to send missiles into neighboring countries in the region and of course, at America's military assets.
Well, we all know that Iran is going to do all it can, the terror regime, to basically disrupt the region. It has already attacked UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. In fact, its quote-unquote mediator, Qatar, and Oman. And so Iran is at this very stage isolated, and Israel and America have truly hit Iran so hard. As you know, we've talked about the Ayatollah Khamenei, who was killed within the first 15 minutes of that strike. His compound was targeted. I mean, they were so brazen to meeting during the day. They just basically had a bullseye on that compound, and Israel and the United States took him out. And I think that sends a strong message, not just only to the region, but to our adversaries, China and Russia. And so you notice the words and the statements coming even from Beijing. They're very muted. It's not full support for Iran. And also, it's a message to Russia as well. The time of these countries aiding and abetting terror regimes, countries that disrupt trade, commerce, and a rule of law civilization is over. I think President Trump has sent a very strong signal that the free world is back, and the free world will prevail with freedom, with opportunities, with justice, And I think this is a new dawn in the Middle East, and we certainly need to rally the support that's needed for Israel, for the United States, and for our allies in the region. We want to see this menace removed once and for all.
So we just talked about the president scheduled to meet with the German chancellor. What do you think, Natasha, about the response from our European allies as far as this is concerned? It seems like they've been kind of waffling, and as we say here in the South, they've been crawfishing on this a bit. They're out, they're in, they're out, they're in, and maybe I'm being a little too harsh on them, but what do you think?
Right, you're not too harsh. You're right. They were too wishy-washy on actually helping America and NATO against Iran. And what happened is actually Iran is uniting everyone.
Yeah.
Because by attacking our Arab allies in the Gulf, they all came to support America when they were not sure at the beginning whether they're going to support or not against Iran. That happened with NATO as well.
Yeah.
So when the UK Prime Minister said that we are going to support the attacks with a limited defensive support with our base in Cyprus, at that time Iran attacked, and that was actually the beginning of the larger alliance with Germany, France, and Greece coming to help. Yeah.
Hang on. We got a break. We'll continue this discussion on the other side. We got Joel and Natasha, International Leaders Summit, America's Roundtable Radio. We're coming right back.
Hey, this is Bob.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
Now, onto the real part.
Dynamite! On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Boom, 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 boom. Gonna shoot you right down at all your feet.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. We're visiting with Joel and Natasha, co-host of America's Roundtable radio program, co-founder, International Leaders Summit. So the reaction from the other countries in the region, they just always seem to be hesitant and tentative. What a stark contrast that is, Joel, Natasha, to our president. Like him or not, agree with his policies or not, he's about action more than words, and that's refreshing in my view because most people in the political world seem to be more about words and are a little light on taking action.
Indeed, Gerard. He's a man of principle and also, as you've rightfully mentioned, an individual, a leader that is taking action. And in this case that we've seen that, and across the world over the past year and 2 months, he has led with conviction, with principles. He's come to end 8 conflicts around the world. Some of the critics have mentioned, well, we're entering a new war. But I would suggest to our listeners is that he is actually working to end the conflict, to end the war. We have been, basically fighting against Iran for decades. If we remember what had transpired during the wars of Afghanistan and specifically in Iraq, some 603 U.S. soldiers were killed. And that killing was connected to Iran and the regime there. So we're constantly doing this tit for tat. And there was an interesting clip of Donald Trump from the 1980s when he's communicating his great disdain when individuals from the U.S. Embassy, Americans, were taken hostage by the Ayatollah Khomeini at that time, and how he was very upset that American leadership really wasn't stepping up to the plate. And that was during the Carter administration.
Very weak.
You're right. I think strong leadership is important. Principled leadership is important. And it's a new day for the free world. And Donald Trump, President Trump, represents the free world today.
If I'm not mistaken, Joel, that was when he appeared as a guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show, as I recall, is when he talked about that, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
there were a number of interviews that he gave that time.
Well, I was in college at the time, and honestly, Carter always project weakness. And when Ronald Reagan was elected, of course, he projected strength, and it was very disturbing every day to see Americans being held hostage in Iran. And of course, as you guys probably know, that launched the famous television program hosted by Ted Koppel, now Nightline, because all we had back in those days was the three networks and their 30 minutes a day, and that was it. We didn't have the round the clock news cycle, and people wanted more information about this situation. This was huge, and that's what gave rise to that. And then, of course, you fast forward, now we have the 7/24, 365 news cycles, and I think the country is in the world's better for it. But I ask you this question, Natasha. If we could achieve our objectives and neutralize the threat of Iran, stabilize the region, perhaps revive and reinstall democracy and return Iran to what it was in the 70s before the crazy cult took over, honestly. Don't you think the whole world is just better off if we can get to that point?
Yes. The world will be a much better place without Iran having nuclear capabilities to attack us, to attack Middle East, Europe, to have, they wouldn't be, because they were supporting all terrorist groups, as we already said, Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthis still in Yemen. Plus, if they had a nuclear weapon with the wish to death to America and death to Israel, we don't need to imagine what can happen. They're telling us what can happen. And so it's going to be a better place, geopolitically, militarily, but also economically, because, we are having these two major disruptors throughout the history, Venezuela and Iran. So President Trump is very strategic about how to get rid of enemies that are making our lives miserable, affecting the global economy. And especially now with Venezuela, oil being available to the world, to America and the world, and if Iran becomes a peaceful nation with a democratic institutions, we have another fourth oil supplier in the world that we won't have any disruptions. They will not be playing around with us paying high price of oil while Russia can get oil under the table for nothing almost compared to us, where we have markets that can flourish, that we don't have all this attacks by Houthis or the world trade going through Suez Canal and Hormuz. So basically, and I'm thinking that as your previous question was, President Trump is very strategic, looking much decades forward to have peaceful world without Venezuela's regime that is hostile, Iran's regime that is hostile, and both of that affects China, because China is buyer. They were buying Venezuela's oil. They're buying 80% of Iran's oil export was going to China.
Yeah,
it was only 8% of China's at a discount. So basically, we're really not just affecting, positive benefits for the Western world, but also getting China to play by the rules of everyone else in the market. So they will have to they won't be relying on cheap oil anymore, and that's also putting them in a real competition in the market with America, and reducing their dominance as well. So it's on all fronts. It's a win-win-win.
And Joel, even here at home, the indirect effect is that there are a lot of small businesses that will right now hesitate to make business decisions just because of this uncertainty. They see the price of oil spiking up. They see the tensions in the Middle East. And they know if we can just get resolution and achieve long-term lasting stability, then they proceed. And they're more likely to take risk and make investments and hire people and expand their businesses. And that's how we grow the economy, and that's how we improve prosperity, not only here but abroad as well.
Indeed. As we've just seen over the past few days, the dollar is much stronger than it was before.
Yeah.
And there's sort of an expectation, as individuals look at what President Trump has done in Venezuela, how he's brought Maduro to account. There's a regime, in a way, in transition in the fact that we no longer have Maduro creating havoc in our Western Hemisphere. But also, when we look back at the Persian Gulf War, the first Persian Gulf War, whereby the U.S. troops had a coalition, they moved Saddam back into Baghdad after it had invaded Kuwait. The dollar actually was strong for about a decade plus. And that was because of American strength projected with strength and with principled action. And I think that's what President Trump is doing. So for businesses today, the long-term picture is very positive. And we are certainly optimistic that with Israel, with the United States, with Arab states banding together to once and for all eradicate this brutal regime, this death cult, not for the region, but for the entire world. If they're gone, the world is a safer place, and it's a major signal to China and Russia. They better get in line.
Yeah, that's a great point as well, Natasha, and you were just talking about it, is how this makes things a little more difficult for China because they won't be able to import that oil at such a huge discount and gain an advantage on so many fronts as a result.
Right. Yeah, that's for sure. And another thing that China is not really getting out of their way to supply is that there are Chinese investments in all of our Arab allies countries, and most importantly, Saudi Arabia and UAE. So if China joins Iran, it would be an oxymoron, because they would be jeopardizing their own investments in the region. So China will not support Iran. Russia is not able to do so with the front in Ukraine. And Iran is just left alone because all our Arab allies that were on the verge of supporting this attack actually now are with us, with America and Israel, as well as now NATO coming to us after Iran attacked Cyprus, the British base in Cyprus.
We're a lot stronger when we work together and isolate these bad guys. That's what we got to do. We're out of time. We appreciate, as always, you guys for coming on, Joel and Natasha. Also, my wife, Julie, just sent me a message. She wanted to pass on her hello and regards to you guys as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
All the best to Julie. We remember our time in Washington, D.C.
Absolutely.
Look forward to you returning.
We enjoyed that. Appreciate your hospitality. Good to see you guys. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Gerard.
Thank you, Gerard.
Coming right back, folks.
Days with Gerard Gibert.
It is on
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Middays. We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. So, there's a question on the C Spire text line from Paula Meridian. So, what grade of oil is up in the Alaska ANWR area? That's the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. This is thought to be shale type oil. It is estimated it's a $1.57 million coastal plain. It's all often referred to as the 1002 area. And the deposits are considered undiscovered is the term they used to describe them. I've seen that many times before. And prospective rather than proven reserves. But there's still a pretty high probability, according to experts, that there's about 4.5 to 12 million barrels of recoverable oil in that coastal plain. And, I don't understand all of the various terminology associated with oil. Will, I'll have to be honest about that. But it is similar in quality to that in the adjacent Prudhoe Bay field. It's light to medium, meaning that it is desirable for refining, and it is refinable in this country. However, we don't have any dang refining capacity. And honestly, the big oil companies that operate these refineries say that they don't think they'll ever build another one in this country. The investment is so significant, and the payback return on that investment is such a long period that they just don't see fit to do so. So, and it is true, somebody on the C Spire text line said, Jerry, in Waynesboro, we can't use or use clean oil. It is actually sent to another country, refined and returned as gas. We need dirty oil. That's absolutely correct, Jerry. That's something I've shared on the program before and have a couple of slides in my standard civic group speeches that actually explain that dynamic, that we have barges, tankers full of oil that kind of cross each other in the ocean, that the light sweet that we get from fracking heads overseas for refining, and the heavy, dirty sulfur, high sulfur content oil that we can refine here comes across the ocean for us to refine. Like Venezuela is an example, which most of that oil is heavy and dirty and contains lots of sulfur. And there are just a ton of really fascinating white papers and reports on this kind of chemistry mismatch that we have between refineries in this country, refineries abroad, and then the oil that we extract out of the ground, both here and overseas. So that's absolutely true. Most of our refineries are built around refining what was prevalent in this country for so long, which is the dirtier, higher sulfur content oil. But all this fracking is pulling out light sweet. We're sending that overseas. Literally pipe it down to Houston. It gets on tankers, and we send it overseas for refining. But here's kind of the main thing, besides all that sort of technical in the weeds stuff, is that right now the price of oil is elevated because of what's going on in the Middle East, and that is having an impact on global supply. And so that's going to translate to higher prices at the pump, if you hadn't already seen that. When you get down in the low 50s type range, the oil companies say we can't make money like that. So even though I know that we all kind of like the COVID period, remember that when the tankers were on the high seas and they were saying, hey, come buy you a tanker. Right? Just take it off our hands for nothing. The president smartly did replenish the strategic petroleum reserves when the price was significantly depressed as a result of demand slowing abruptly because we shut the dang global economy down because of the COVID. Remember, the airlines weren't flying.
Oh, yeah.
And we weren't getting in cars the way we weren't going to work.
Parking lots were empty.
Yeah. So we pretty much quashed transportation in this country and across the world. And thus the demand for oil plummeted and supply greatly exceeded. And you remember, Will, for a time period there, it was negative. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. So now we have been kind of, since the president's been in office, hovering in that $65 or so a barrel range. It did fall below 60 a couple of months ago, but that was short-lived. He's brought it down 7 to 10% since he took office over from Joe Biden. And to a great extent, that is because his policies have induced the production of more oil, but you also got to figure into that equation the fact that Saudi Arabia and the Middle Eastern countries, they actually stepped up the production of oil, and that was in response to the president's policies, which they felt like would give American domestic oil producers an edge because, hey, wait, now the U.S. has got a president that's more favorable to what they do. That means they're going to go produce more and take more of the market share. We're going to have to respond by producing more and preempting that. So it's a win-win for us that consume that stuff at the pump, or, of course, also used is, of course, gas to provide electricity. So that's kind of what's going on there. But, yes, somebody did ask about Anwar, and, yes, that the president has allowed drilling to be revived in that region, the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, and some of that is going on. But it's a very touchy, sensitive situation because of the environmental concerns, and it gets lots of pushback. And to ensure and overprotect, if you will, if there is such a thing, against some sort of spill and problem and spoilage of the environment, it makes it more expensive.
Yeah.
To deal with. So, but it is absolutely true that there are a bunch of, it is thought by experts that there's a bunch of oil underground in that area. Let's see. Just turn in if you've already answered that. Okay, here we go. What do gas prices increase? Yeah, everybody always asks this. No, that's not price gouging. Gas prices increase commensurate with the price of oil as it is delivered to retail providers, sellers of gas. And I know there's always this thought that, well, these guys are out there. Often, remember, these are the same companies. So these guys are out there and they're raising the price prematurely. Retail sellers of gasoline don't make any money on gasoline. They make money when you fill your car up, go into the store, and spend it on stuff that does actually produce money for them. So you got to remember just how rapid that stuff flows through. I mean, they get deliveries, and boom, they move through it. That's on a regularly scheduled basis coming from the distributor, and that's coming straight from the refineries and the refineries. So that happens in a very short time period. So it's not unusual to see that affect the price of gas at the retail level. Also, keep in mind that what you're seeing today as the price of oil rises, those are futures. Those are futures. That's out in the future. So this has been coming. We've been watching the price, not just the last couple of days as a result of the war, but we've seen that. The average price for gas, latest check I saw on Gas Buddy, will nationwide $3.10. That's the average. Across the country. So we have seen an increase. And, of course, you're going to find it much higher in the states that have much higher taxes, such as California, where like 70 cents per gallon of taxes just from the state. I mean, it's incredible what they have. We are fortunate here in this state, even with a 9 cents increase in the fuel excise tax. Remember, that went into effect with the House HB1 tax reform bill that ultimately became law last year. That kicked in, I believe, in July 1, 3 cents a year over the next 3 years. So we're already experiencing that 3 cent increase. That's already baked into the price of gas here in the state of Mississippi. It will go up another 3 cents. Will the excise tax this coming July? So let's see what else we got here. Don't we need more refineries? Yeah, we talked about that. Absolutely. They're going to have to wrap this war thing up pretty soon, says someone on the C Spire text line. I'm tired of missing the Gutfeld show. Man, oh man, I hear you. That's certainly consuming the entire news cycle right now. That's all you see. It's a big deal, of course. We're coming right back with more in the Element Wealth studio.
Up a
you know what that means.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
We'll do it live
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. So I got to pass this on. Will, later on, after the show, I'm headed north to Ole Miss. I have been invited by the chapter of Young Americans for Liberty at the university. We're doing kind of an event that's modeled a bit after the events Charlie Kirk used to hold on college campuses, with some narrative that you ask others to prove you wrong on. And this one, it's prove me wrong. Socialism has never worked. So Prax Ben, who is a fairly popular YouTuber among the college crowd, he's coming to Oxford. I'm meeting him later today, and he and I are going to take that on, not debating against each other, on the same side, and we will be talking to those who approach and make their case in favor of socialism, and we'll respond to that. They're setting up a table in front of the student union, probably set up about now, promoting this event, and there should be folks coming by that are talking to him, making their case. I'll be up there about 4:30 this afternoon, and then we'll kick things off at 5:30. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be at the Student Union tonight in Oxford. On the C Spire text line, tell us about the Texas primaries and how this will affect, if you haven't already. Yeah, so whereas next week in Mississippi is primary day, today is primary day in, I think, 3 states, if I'm not mistaken. But the one all eyes are on is Texas. And what's unusual that you don't see very often is that both the Republican and Democratic primary are high profile, hotly contested. And earlier in the program, I indicated I'd share how much is being invested in that race. The two races combined, the Democrat and the primary, the Republican primary, $122 million.
$122 million for primaries.
Most expensive ever.
In a non-presidential year.
Correct. $122 million. So, wow. I know, it is insane to think about. On the Republican side, it's the incumbent, John Cornyn. He's 74, seeking his 5th term in the U.S. Senate. And he's receiving a challenge for Ken Paxton. He's the Attorney General of the Lone Star State. And United States Rep. Wesley Hunt. Now, it's widely expected when you got 3 like that in the race, to win it outright in a primary, it's got to be 50% plus 1. It is pretty much a done deal that this is going to be headed to a runoff in May. Now, Paxton is considered more of a conservative firebrand. He's more of a MAGA-type guy, but, man, does he ever have a rap sheet of controversies.
Yes, he does.
Oh, gosh. Securities fraud, that which was settled out of court, abuse of office allegations by the FBI, impeached by State House Republicans, and then acquitted by the Senate. He denies wrongdoing. He filed for divorce last year, citing infidelity on the part of his wife, and he said that the divorce was the result of, quote, pressures of countless political attacks. So it's Ken Paxton and Wesley Hunt who are going after the incumbent, John Cornyn. On the Democrat side...
First of all,
yeah,
I've heard some people talk about Senator Cornyn's age.
Yeah.
Ken Paxton's 63, so it's not like we're robbing the cradle over here.
That's right. And Wesley Hunt's like in his 40s, I think. So, no, I agree, but 63 to serve a 6-year term is a little different than 74 to serve a 6-year term. I think you'd have to say, especially when you consider our president's now 79. But think about him, and Joe Biden was, 2 years older than him? And when you look at those two standing next to each other, or just envision the two, Joe Biden a little over a year ago, and then this president over the last year, it seems like 20 years separates them, not 2.
Yeah.
In my view. And then on the other side of the break, and we got Fox News SuperTalk News coming your way, it's top of the hour, but in the afternoon hour of Middays, we'll also discuss the Democratic primary in Texas. And then, how about some tax reform in the state of Mississippi concerning NIL income? What about that? Passed the House yesterday. We'll dig into that in the afternoon portion of Middays from the Element Wealth Studio.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
That's what I like to listen to.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert. Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Winter is here again, oh Lord.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 3, the afternoon portion of Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Are you thinking about retirement? Do you have a plan? Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income growth and guarantees. And also, Will, tell the folks about our coverage for Election Day in Mississippi next Tuesday. Our guys are going to be all over it.
That's right. We'll have news updates, of course, on air. We'll have news updates online, and we'll have a live election tracker so you can follow along with the results as they come in. That's all going on next Tuesday.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
And it's you just go to supertalk.fm and you'll see it right there. And also you can use the SuperTalk app too. We'll have a little pop-up that'll show you the election results.
Well, and we appreciate that. Look forward to that. Our team works awfully hard on that. News Director J.T. Mitchell gave us kind of a rundown of what all they'll be doing. So they're all over it. It's a big day next Tuesday, certainly, in the state of Mississippi. Once again, on the ballot will be those candidates running for United States House in all 4 of Mississippi's congressional districts. And then, of course, 1 United States Senate seat is also on the ballot. These are primaries. When you get to the polls, you'll tell the poll worker which of the party primaries you wish to vote in. Mm-hmm. And they will hand you the appropriate ballot, and you'll cast it, and off we go. So, and then if runoffs are required, I'm not even sure when that would occur. My guess is it probably would be in the May timeframe.
That's when Texas's runoffs would be. So May.
I have to take a look at that.
Yeah.
Now, Congressional District 3 is uncontested, Michael Guest's seat. I'm not sure about the others. I absolutely know that in Congressional District 2, that's the one currently held by Representative Benny Thompson, he has a challenger, and then there are 2 on the ballot on the Republican ticket in CD2.
I've been seeing his challengers' ads
quite
a bit.
Yeah, that's right. Quite a bit. And then Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith has a challenger as well. She came in on the program. Sarah Adlaka was on the program a couple of weeks ago talking about her candidacy. So that's where we are. But all eyes again on Texas tomorrow. Oh, pardon me. It's today.
Today, yes. Today's Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday, yeah. Pardon me. So, and that's because, for a long time, The Democrats have claimed they could flip Texas. Now, we're not going to know that today. This is just primary. But they do have a very, what they believe are two very strong primary candidates. Now, we just talked about, before we went to break, on the Republican side, the incumbent Senator John Cornyn, 74 years old, seeking his fifth term, and he is facing a challenge from Attorney General Ken Paxton with a long list of baggage, and then Wesley Hunt, the representative that currently serves in the House. So largely believe that's going to a runoff. But on the Democrat side, this is really fascinating. It's current United States Representative Jasmine Crockett from the Houston area, and then actually from the Dallas area, James Tallarico. He's a Presbyterian seminarian making a run. He serves in the State House of Texas. I started following him well over a year ago, Will, and view his videos. He's been conducting town halls across the state of Texas. You know, it's hard enough to run a statewide race in Mississippi. Imagine what it's like running one in Texas. That's just got to be incredible. Because you think about how big that place is.
It's huge.
It's massive. And I know traveling over there, as I did when my son was playing baseball over in West Texas, and when he was in JUCO, you get to the other side of Dallas, and there was a sign out there on I-20 that said something like, New Mexico, 500 miles or something like that. Wow, I've already gone 500 miles, in the state. So it really is incredibly big. So you can imagine what it's like for these candidates to traverse the state and campaign. Tallarico, I've been watching his videos. He's hardcore anti-school choice guy. Used to be a teacher. And, of course, school choice did ultimately pass in the Lone Star State of Texas, a huge priority for Governor Greg Abbott. He also traversed the state, campaigning, advocating for school choice. And where he didn't have Republican support, he went out and found challengers and helped them get elected to get folks in the legislature that would push his agenda through regarding school choice. But Tallarico, in his speech after speech against it, always called it Greg Abbott's education voucher scam. That's what he called it in every speech. But now, of course, running for the U.S. Senate, he focuses on the narrative of love. He says love can solve all the problems and cure everything, and it's the strongest force in the universe. I don't agree with this guy on any policy, and I'm not too crazy about that as a campaign narrative. But I'll say this. He's an outstanding retail politician. He's a great speaker. He's a great relationship builder. He's extremely popular, and everywhere he goes in that state, he packs the room. Everywhere. Yep. It doesn't matter. And they're really smart in that whomever is recording all this on his campaign team, this may be totally staged and untrue, but they will always talk to people who say, I used to vote Republican, but I'm switching and voting Democrat. Have no idea if that's accurate or honest, but it's pretty powerful. I'll say that. But he's an excellent orator.
He is.
You can't deny that.
His
views are terrible.
He wants to pack the court.
Big time.
Universal health care.
Yep.
I mean, you just go
Child
down.
care. And his main talking point, and I guess what I would say is just tops his list of campaign messaging, is it's not left versus right. It's top versus bottom. The billionaires are running the country. I mean, he really does gin up the class warfare. That's what he's good at. And he has made it very clear he's accepted no money from billionaires or corporate PACs. I don't know where he got his money, but he's got like $25 million, which is a lot in a primary. So he has distinguished himself in that respect. And what he points to are the billionaires, he says, who funded the school choice policy and measure through the House and Senate there in Texas. So he pretty much places the blame for everything bad in the country at the feet of wealthy people. He
does.
And look, it resonates. Unfortunately, that resonates with a lot of people on the right, too. And I disagree with him in that respect. But it does get folks' attention. So
his immigration policy, by the way, which is very important in Texas, of course, as it is a lot of other places, but his immigration policy, you know what it is?
What's that?
Literally put out the welcome mat. That's what his immigration policy is.
Like I said, I don't agree
treat
with
it like a front porch.
You're right. I have seen him say that. And he also tells a very heart-tugging story. I don't know if you've seen that, Will, about being raised by a single mother and a father who left them. And she had to pull herself up by the bootstraps and take care of him. He refers to her a lot. She follows him around. It's powerful. Again, that doesn't excuse his terrible policies because I don't agree with any of them.
That's the stuff that gets you elected.
It sure does. If people just ignore reality of policies and bad views for that sort of emotional stuff. And he's really good at that. He plays up to it very well. I mean, I'm just going to be honest here. You can't deny it. I tell you, the Republicans get it. You may have seen this, Will. There are numerous Republican PACs who are pouring money into Jasmine Crockett's campaign because they fear this guy being the nominee.
Oh, absolutely. She's a much more vulnerable candidate than him.
No doubt about it. No, he gets out of that thing. He's got a chance.
What do the polls say? Do we know what the polls say?
As far as her and him,
yeah,
neck and neck. 41 and change and 41 and change. I know. It's going to be fascinating. Stepping aside for a break right now, we got to get to this NIL tax exemption that the state house has just passed. Stay with us.
But you're in love with me. I said I'm hooked on a feeling, and I'm high on believing that you're in love with me.
Hey, this is Bob.
Check it out. Let's do this.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's get on with it.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. Well, the plot thickens. This just in, Will. Israel has struck the Iranian leadership meeting that was voting on Khomeini's successor.
Yeah, that's the Assembly of Experts.
Okay. I didn't know that's what they called it.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
All right. So, I mean,
you and I could be an Assembly of Experts.
Assembly of Experts.
I hope we don't get bombed by Iran.
What a joke. Assembly of Experts. Oh, my gosh. Wow. Well, the Dow is paring its losses. It's down now 500 points. That's half of where it was down earlier in the session. Crude oil up $75 a barrel. In this country, the West Texas Intermediate still above $80 a barrel, the Brent C crude variety. The NASDAQ also shedding its losses as well, now down 260. That's about half of where it was. So it's just volatile, to say the least. Man, oh, man. So I got to get to this NIL income. Now, we have a measure that passed the Mississippi House. No tax on NIL money bill. Really helps Mississippi State and Ole Miss as they compete with the other programs that are located in states that don't have an income tax. So we still have one. It's not much of one, but we do have one. It's being phased out, as you guys know, So our state, this provision, said Representative Trey Lamar, who, of course, chairs the House Ways and Means Committee, he said it would make our state a more attractive destination for top athletes and give college coaches another recruiting perk. Quote, NIL's taking the country and coming by storm. He said other states are doing it, and I believe it's time that Mississippi starts doing this as well. So even states, Will, that have a state income tax have enacted law that exempts NIL money. I'm hearing mixed feelings out there in the public about this. It seems like we're all of a sudden paying favorites a lot here in the state. We're going to give these guys a break, but not you. You still got to pay because you're not a college athlete pulling in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars.
Well, that's true.
It's a point, no doubt.
But there's a flip side of that coin.
Yeah.
And that would mean that if you're a football fan in the state of Mississippi and you root for Mississippi State or Southern Miss or Ole Miss,
yep,
you're going to be at a disadvantage if this does not pass, because other athletes going to states like Tennessee and Florida and Texas, their income is exempt.
Yeah. Yeah, and in some states, I don't have the list in front of me, I know have exempted NIL income, even though they still maintain a standard income tax, state-level income tax. I'm really disappointed that our legislature failed to act, and I guess they still could, to align tax treatment of tips, overtime, automobile interest with federal policy.
Yeah.
So, as you know, effective January 1, 2025, in arrears, you can deduct, and there's some limitations on it, tips, overtime, automobile interest based on your income, and then there's some caps on that. That applies at the federal level, but not at the state level. I wish we would have aligned those and fixed that. Should have been thinking about that, talking about it actually last summer after it passed to get ready for it. We could have enacted that before tax season, or right when tax season started there in January, before people start doing their returns, and make it retroactive to January, just like the Fed did. So hopefully the legislature will see fit to act on that. So we were talking about the Texas election. There's also big primaries in Arkansas and North Carolina today. You had something you want to say about Arkansas.
Let's go to Central Arkansas in Lonoke County, which is right outside of Little Rock. They have a sheriff's race today. Okay. Got three candidates on the Republican side of it. Your three candidates are, I had them pulled up here, and now it seems to have gone away, of course. But John Stanley is one of the candidates. A guy by the name of, I believe, John Buford is the other candidate. And the other candidate is a guy by the name of Aaron Spencer. Now, one of them is the incumbent. That's the Stanley guy. The other one is a captain or a detective or something. But the Aaron Spencer guy, he's not like the rest of them. He's currently being tried for murder. He was charged with supposedly murdering the person who was accused of sexually abusing his daughter. He supposedly murders this person, is going on trial for it, and decides to run for sheriff.
Oh, my gosh.
And his trial has just started. So not only is he on trial for murder, but he's also in the primary for sheriff.
Oh, my God.
And it's not quite clear if he is convicted and elected. Imagine being convicted and then turn around being elected. I don't know if he would be able to serve. They're not quite sure, because guess what? This hasn't happened before.
Yeah.
Not many people on trial for murder run for public office, but we have that going on in Arkansas. So a very interesting race. You always get these little interesting kind of deals going on when you get down to the local level. You never know what you're going to get.
It's just bizarre.
Yes.
So that's going on, and then we got a primary in North Carolina, and that's a Senate seat up for re-election, right?
Yeah, that's Democrat Roy Cooper. And then
former governor,
and then Republican Michael Whatley.
Yeah,
I believe
that's
how you
right.
say that.
Yep.
Running for Senate. Those are the two big names there.
And that would be to replace Senator Tom Tillis, I believe.
Yes.
Is stepping down from his seat there.
So Roy Cooper was a long time, I guess, two-term governor, but very popular in that state.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure. I don't know as much about Michael Whatley. That's one of the key races right there, and I'm sure there's millions and millions of dollars going to be spent on that one.
Yeah. Man, oh, man. But all eyes, no doubt, are on Texas. And it's scary to me that Texas could, in fact, elect a Democrat senator. I'm not trying to be pessimistic about it, just realistic about it. Here's the problem I have, Will. You put, let's say it's Paxton, and you put him next
vulnerable.
Put him next to Tallarico.
Man.
Because you got to remember, the elections, they're won by independents. They're won by those who waffle. Well, it just depends on the person. I'm not really wed to any particular party. And the same is true in the state of Texas. And that's what bothers me is...
the last really close... Ted Cruz, the last couple of times, has had close races. When he ran against Colin Allred, I believe his name was, a few years ago, maybe last year.
Yeah.
That was pretty close. But the really close one was Beto O'Rourke, who's a lot more like...
Terrible.
Terrible issues,
right.
But a great very personable person.
He is.
That was like less than a percentage point.
I remember, and like $180 million spent in that general election, as I recall.
Yeah, and that was kind of like one of those. If I'm not mistaken, that was one of those off-year type deals.
It was.
During a presidential?
That's right. Well, this guy Tallarico, check him out, folks. Again, he is a prolific promoter of class warfare, bigger than anything.
Yeah,
I would say he tries to kind of promote this idea that he's more of a traditional Christian, and he warns against what he calls Christian nationalism and weaponizing Christianity. He being a Presbyterian teacher. However, he talks about abortion. And he said in some of his speeches, and people clap for it, that, allowing a woman to choose is more consistent with Christian viewpoints. He said that.
Yep.
And people clap for it. So that's kind of where we're headed. Another data center coming to Mississippi, $750 million going to be spent in Clinton.
Oh, really?
Clinton. Yeah, the Board of Aldermen just approved the deal. Unnamed company at this point. This is going to be at the industrial park.
Yeah.
There's a facility there already. They're not talking about what that is. It was built in 1972. 730,000 square foot facility. Is that the old Packard Electric plant?
I don't know.
That's the only thing that makes sense here to me. I don't know. But this is the latest data center coming to the state of Mississippi. $750 million will be invested. The owner yet to be named. So that's interesting. That's coming. We're taking a break right here. We're coming right back with more in the Element Well studio.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Welcome to our shop
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Okay, now you have a good one.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things.
Back with you in the Element Well studio. CC in Senatobia asked a question. As I shared earlier, I'm headed north to Ole Miss this afternoon. We'll be involved in a Socialism Has Never Worked, Prove Me Wrong event up there with the Young Americans for Liberty. Be headed that way. after the show. CC in Sanatobia says, what do you say to a student who says, I don't care if socialism works, I want it anyway? Well, you can't always have what you want. It's the first thing I would say. And I would attempt to persuade them to think about it a little differently, what they're actually hoping and wishing for. And if they point to nations that actually still are not considered just pure socialistic nations, Sweden is one, for example. They haven't nationalized the industries such as pure socialism would entail, but they do have lots of social programs. But you pay for that. Onerous taxes. Looked it up, did a little research getting ready for the event tonight. Over 50% on income starting at $62,000. So just contrast that to this country where it's roughly 37 and change percent when you get to $600,000, right? So little different situation. Sure, you can have all those programs. You just end up giving away about half of what you make to the government for those programs. It's true, you don't have the costs associated with those programs, but how motivated are you, Will, thinking that, well, for every dang hour I work, half of what I make here, I got to send it to the government?
Yeah, and then the government does something bad and has to pay for it, and you bear the cost of that. I mean, it just doesn't work.
I know. I agree. And it hasn't. And there are no situations where you could point to
scale. I mean, that's the other thing is that it's easy to compare. I mean, it's difficult to compare, countries like Sweden or something like that, which is always the poster child.
That's what the Democrats like to point to.
Nordic countries.
Yeah.
They're relatively speaking, they're tiny.
Really small, yeah. Very homogenous in nature. I mean, the challenges of implementing those same sorts of systems in this country are orders of magnitude greater than they are in small countries like that. Yeah. Again, with a much less diverse society, and it's also less dispersed, which makes it a little easier, certainly, as well. And they also don't have wide open borders like we do here, which has caused lots of problems for us.
Yeah, that's another huge thing.
They're learning, though. Germany in particular says, this is breaking us. We can't do this anymore. So they're pivoting somewhat. Argentina is the example of a country that had 200% inflation until Milei was elected. And first thing he did was impose all sorts of austerity to try to get rid of inflation. I mean, they're still struggling. They're paying for bad policy for a long time, but they're on their way, and the people see the improvement, the benefit. But it's a great example of where it just completely failed and cratered and didn't work. And then most recently, Venezuela. Same deal. You're watching the collapse of Cuba right before our eyes right now. It's getting worse every day.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember the collapse of the USSR. And I recently was reading a book about the collapse and all the stuff that was going on. And, one of the things that kind of signaled to the Russians was when I believe it was Boris Yeltsin came over to the United States and was touring the country and went to a supermarket.
That's right.
Outside of some big city in Texas, went to a supermarket, one that he didn't know the U.S. government, had set up intentionally. It was an actual supermarket. And he cried.
Yeah. Because
he realized that the amount of goods that were available to everyday Americans far surpassed what they had. Well, I believe their average age over there had dropped to like 58 or something like that. People were dying in the streets from hunger.
Yeah,
malnutrition.
He literally, it was late 80s.
Late 80s,
88, 89, something like that. He marveled at how well stocked the shelves were.
Yeah.
He just couldn't get over that. And all the choices, of course, that we have. Also on the C Spire text line, do you think Cornyn would like to reconsider his vote on the Biden gun control law? Yeah, he's been hammered on that a good bit by his political opponents. I don't know that that's going to be a factor as much as it is. There's just kind of an anti-incumbent sentiment that's pervading the nation, sweeping the nation, and he's going after his 5th term. Be 30 years serving in the U.S. Senate with 6-year terms. Just seems like that's enough to me, and I think people are starting to feel like, we can rotate the crops at the ballot box. Also on the C Spire text line, I've watched, if I can get rid of this here, I've watched some of his stuff talking about James Tallarico, the Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate in the state of Texas. He's a legitimate threat to the GOP if he wins the primary. I agree. I think he would be as well. Casey on the C Spire text line says, I remember when I was mesmerized by Obama when he was on Oprah. Yeah. He was a great speaker. He was a great retail politician. You absolutely can't deny that. And you know what happens, Will, is to the point where, as Casey says, you do get kind of overwhelmed with just the package, and you don't pay attention to what they're saying and what they're standing for.
Yeah.
And you vote accordingly. People vote emotion. That's just a fact.
Absolutely.
Casey says, I've never voted Democrat, but I remember being very impressed. Yeah,
Who was the candidate again?
Obama.
Oh, yeah.
You can't deny that. I mean, the guy was a great retail politician candidate. He understood how to play to a crowd. He was good at that. And it got him elected. But
Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton was fantastic. But those guys were moderate compared to the modern-day Democrats, right? They couldn't.
I think about some of the policies that Clinton had, and I go, he couldn't run on that now if he was a Democrat.
Unbelievable. Totally different deal. Terry in the past says, the House passing this NIL bill is a slap in the face to anyone paying state income tax. Most of these athletes will fall into the you-know-whatter with their NIL money. All we ever hear about is how we need to make the 1%ers pay their way, but in Mississippi, I guess we're going to give them a free pass, at least make it contingent on getting a degree while you're playing college football. If not, pay back some taxes. Yeah, not a bad idea. I don't know, Terry, if that's got a chance of making its way into the legislation. We'll see how it goes. It's passed the House, transmitted down to the Senate. Not sure what to think. But I get it, why people would be upset about it. It is the old government playing winners and losers. No doubt about it. Could have been a Zoom meeting and turned into a boom meeting talking about, what do they call it, the experts? What was it called? The Council of Experts?
Assembly of
Experts. Okay. Over there in Iran. That's so bizarre. No tax on NIL money is the best our legislature can do. No meaningful legislation passed. PERS, school choice, ballot initiative. We need to move the legislature to an every other year session to save the money we are wasting on them up there. So I hear you. Don't overlook the fact that it's still got to make its way through the Senate and be signed into law by the governor to become law. So, yeah, they're working through the PERS issue. I think we'll get something there. It won't be a permanent solution, but it'll be something because both sides have offered legislation. I think they'll come together with something. School choice, I'd say that's dead this year, my personal opinion. The ballot initiative, I don't really see a path to ever restore that. I just don't see any interest. When I've talked to, I'm not going to name names here, but when I've talked to a couple of who voters would consider really staunch conservatives that serve in the legislature, say that they oppose, for example, term limits. I think most people would tell you, yeah, I think we need term limits. Now, I have mixed feelings about that. I see pros and cons.
Yeah.
But when you have someone say, well, we can't have term limits because I might get replaced with somebody with less experience. Like, well, you didn't have any experience when you got here, but that was okay. So, yeah, it's just kind of how it goes. John in Pontotoc, says, we're on a smaller budget. We need to give our colleges every advantage we can. A playoff game, economic-wise, would be huge. Arkansas is one, talking about that. Rich in Biloxi, as I said this morning, NIL money should not be exempt from state taxes. If I have to pay, they should pay. Interesting. I'm going to start a collective and deposit my check in it before taxes, says Derek in Greenwood, then pay myself out of the collective. Legal evasion if this passes, right? Oh, yeah, Arkansas passed the tax-free NIL. I suspect that was some of the inspiration. I know some other states have. I don't have them in front of me, but in Arkansas still does have a state income tax, but just not on NIL income. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it. I get it. I don't give anything about college athletes receiving tax exemptions, says Andy. Typical for our state legislature, picking winners and losers, and usually those of us that simply try to work hard, support our family, get the shaft. Still looking for the legislature to get school choice. Coming back.
At Fillmore Buick.
Properly set all controls before recording.
All systems go. The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Speaking of taxes, and it appears, Will, that this bill that exempts NIL income from state income taxes doesn't seem to be very popular on the C-Spire text line today, does it? It's getting some pushback.
Yeah.
By the way, the Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna, Bernie in the Senate, Ro Khanna in the House, they're working together. They're about to introduce their wealth tax.
Oh, yeah.
And a series of other taxes.
$4.4
trillion. They want to shake down 1,000 people, the billionaires. 1,000. That's how many there are in this country. That's half of the world's. They want to shake them down for $4.4 trillion, and they want to use this money for $3,000 stimulus checks per person earning less than $150,000. They want to expand Medicare to cover dental, vision, hearing for all seniors. Ensure that every public school teacher gets paid at least $60,000 a year. Invest $850 billion in what they call affordable home construction. Reverse the Trump Medicaid cuts and implement universal child care. On the C-Spire text line, they want socialism so they can have free health care without having to work full time. Well, you still got to work full time. You're just paying taxes to the tune of 56% of what you earn, and you do get to participate in all those various government programs. Yeah. On the C-Spire text line, unless they allow the donors to write off the donations, I think NIL money should be taxed. And somebody did confirm that the Clinton data center is going in. That's what I thought, the old Packard Electric building. I do recall that Milwaukee Tool, this texter points out, was located in that building for a while they were constructing the Grenada site you see on I-55. Happy to see that facility being used. Yeah, I agree. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Chad in Van Cleve. Gerard, I agree. We aren't far behind, but Texas has always been a stronghold for conservatism. Not so much anymore. Probably because of Austin and San Antonio, of all places, makes me sad. Yet I'm not so sure it's because of the influx of people coming from other states. I know and have met, not all of them, but a fair number through my technology career. Heck, they think like we do. They just want to get the heck out of California for the most part, running them off. So I just think in general, there's just kind of this populist movement that's just anti-wealth. And this Tallarico guy is really tapping into that. And there's been polls runs that show that 70% of the people in this country think, yeah, we ought to tax the rich people more. Just want a pound of flesh. Not me, just the rich people. Leave me alone, right? And I just think that's bad.
Well, this measure by Sanders and Khanna would direct new tax revenue towards one-time $3,000 payments for individuals and households earning $150,000 or less, meaning a family of four could receive up to $12,000. What do you think that's going to do to inflation?
I agree. So on the C Spire text line, how can you be buddies with someone like that? Who am I buddies with? You talking about Jason Starkville? I missed that. I mean, I do like winning football games and making the CFP. Yeah, I hear you. But the question is that necessary? On C Spire text line, tax exemption for Mississippi teachers. Let's recruit teachers to help address our state shortage and help fund PERS via employee contributions. Well, that actually means that those of us who aren't PERS have to pay more taxes to fund the contributions.
Yeah.
But I hear you. If you could get more employees, and we do have some incentives for teachers, but we still have a shortage, and of course they're trying to rectify that with a significant teacher pay raise. Both the House and the Senate have versions of that. Let's see what else we got. So the Ole Miss quarterback gets to keep $200,000 on $5 million, and I pay $4,000 on my $100,000. That seems fair on the C Spire text line. I hear you. Also, Dan in Hasburg says Bill Clinton ensured his election when he broke out the saxophone.
I'm gonna tell you, I know some people that voted for him because of that. Some family members.
I don't doubt.
Who thought, man, this guy's he's a cool cat. He's one of us. And then his town hall debates where he, just came off as so personable. People underestimate that stuff nowadays.
Oh.
But it's powerful.
Oh, yeah, here's the explanation. Rhino called Roe your buddy last week. He did. That's only because I met him when I was up at the inauguration. I want to be clear. I don't agree with him on almost anything. There's a couple of things I'd be okay with, but yeah, this plan to impose these onerous taxes, I'm sorry there, Representative Khanna. I dissent. I do not agree with that proposal one iota. This NIL thing got everybody stirred up. I don't know. Call your senators, all I can tell you, and tell them how you feel about this. We are out of here today. I saw you, Larry and Mize. You had a great question. I'll get to that tomorrow. I'm headed to Oxford. Until then, we're back with you again tomorrow. Stay safe, and God bless everyone.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.